and welcome back to our little podcast with Meridian Music and Sound. Mm-hmm. This is episode 5.
And today we're going to talk about vibration.
This is when we need the cameras to
get
like...
weird effect that I didn't know how to edit.
So we were just having a brief chat about vibrations, because I was sort of saying, I don't know how much I know about vibrations. And then Claire politely reminded me that I'm super intelligent and I probably know those. So I guess if we're relating this back to music and sound on its very basic form, how do vibrations work?
Yeah. Well, sound is and frequency is vibration. And everything that you hear, whether it be a sound of a horn or a car or a musical instrument, we hear it because we're hearing many vibrations together. There is what we call the fundamental sound, which is the main kind of wave, and then there are many layers to that, which is something we can talk about a little bit later on. But at its core, when we hear something, we are experiencing vibration, and it's the hairs in our ear that then translate that into what we perceive as sound. So just thinking about sound and music from a scientific point of view on its own, I think it's fascinating, and because it changes what you think about in terms of what music is and what sound really is. To me, it makes it a tangible thing that then helps us to understand the impact that it can have on us and how we respond to it. Just that whole physicalization of it is something that's really, really changed my perception of it, I think.
Yeah, I think sometimes, so I always think of being in the car when sometimes it's a hot day and there's a lot of traffic and you've got like the beats going on and on the radio and it feels like too much.
Yeah.
And then I'll sort of change it over to
because of course you can feel it as well. If it's that big, if it's got that much energy to it, you can physically feel it.
And there's so many waves coming from it, and the physical vibration of the speakers are just, it feels like it's radiating on you.
Yeah.
And that you've got so much information that your body is processing at once.
Yeah.
That act of physically driving, constantly observing, or you could be walking down the street and you're observing everything around you, actually physically moving your body, because that's another action.
Yeah.
It's a subconscious thing that we do, but it is an action, and our brain is processing in the back. We've got like these super gazillion chips in our head that's doing all these things in the background that we don't even really think about, like breathing and the blood flowing around our body and all of these things are happening, and then you're adding all these vibrations, because it's not just music that's vibrating. And that's what we were literally just talking about how...
Yeah, so when you widen it out to not just sound and music, as Steph's saying, everything physical in our reality is actually vibrating. If you strip everything back to its atomic level, then that's really what we are. We're just made up of vibration. And then when you couple that with the whole understanding of what we've said about music and sound, it's very easy, I think, to understand the effect, like Steph's been saying. And yes, it can be too much, it can be a negative effect, but what we're now exploring is the flip side of this, that when you understand this, you can use music and sound in such a way that it enables your body to go into the state that you want it to be in, i.e. you can take yourself from a very frantic kind of state to a calm state quite easily, actually. Quite easily, just through what you are exposing yourself to. And I think we all understand this. We especially understand it, you know, if you've been in an office all day and it's hectic and there's lots of people and like me, you just like to be on your own a lot of the time. When you go home to a quiet space, you suddenly go, and, you know, kind of relax. But how much do we think about the sound aspect of that? I think we place the physicality of it, yes, and what we're seeing, but we're not really stopping to think about sound. It's interesting you started by talking about listening to sound in a car, because if people have their loud music on, and you've got the sound of the car, you've got the sound of the traffic, you've got everything going on, I don't think a lot of people stop to think the effect that is actually having.
Yeah.
You know?
I know from my partner very kindly purchased me a really nice pair of noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah.
So there's a little button that you press that's aware that it comes and it does this thing where it plays white noise, and I think it measures the frequencies on the outside and tries to balance what's on the outside so that what inside the headphone, it's a lot of the noise is blocked out. So sometimes I can walk to the shop if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, but I need to get some things from the shop. I will wear those headphones and I don't necessarily have any music on, or I might have something very quiet that's very sort of, you know, Brian Eno, music for AirPods kind of, you know, very, very.
But again, that's what that music's designed to do.
Absolutely, and so I'll have that, and it makes the whole experience feel very different. And in a way, I'm quite disconnected to the world around me, but that's kind of what I need at that point. And it's using it as a tool to enable me to do the things in life that I maybe need to do, but I don't feel that I'm maybe able to in the more fully present way. That we would normally be.
Well, it's bringing yourself inside yourself, isn't it? Whereas a lot of the time, I think especially in our society, we are in the outside world and we have to be, you know, it's a practical aspect of life.
Have to live.
But do we stop to consider what is going on the inside and how we are being affected by this outside world? And that's essentially what you're saying there, is that you needed... In those situations, you need to be able to come more inside and control what's going on. And I think this is the essence of what we're beginning to understand, is that by using sound and music in such a way, in really thinking about what these vibrations are doing and the best frequencies and the best vibrations for what we're trying to do, we can have a massive impact on ourselves, on our bodies, on our minds, on how we feel, and then that in turn allows us to go back out into the outside world. You know,
I'm gonna talk about sleep now.
Okay.
Because that's another place where I use music as a tool, or sound, not really music, but so for many years as a teenager, I used to always sleep with a fan on.
Okay.
I have a specific fan.
Interesting.
And for years after not having the fan with me, I've struggled with sleep. And then recently, the past few summers, I brought it from my mum's house, just been, you know, collecting dust. And now I've got the fan back.
And was that a conscious thing? Did somebody say to you, you know, oh, try putting a fan on and it might help you, or does it just something that just happened?
No, it's something that just happened.
Right, interesting.
I think it was, you know, we'd had a few hot summers, I just had a fan and I had it on in my room, and it's got a timer, so I just put the timer on, and then I found that I used to leave it on all night, or I'd wake up and put the fan on, because that helped me go straight back to sleep. And it's the same thing with, I have like a white noise machine. It's quite limiting that, but I use that because then I don't drain my battery all the time. But my favourite noise is actually called brown noise.
Okay.
And that's
these are different. If anybody's not familiar with what we're talking about, so white noise is basically not fixed frequency, isn't it? That's my understanding of it. So it's not a pitch. There's no pitch to it, but it is. it is generating vibration and frequency in a scattered kind of way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't create pitch.
No.
Which essentially, people think of that as a musical thing, but pitch is sound, isn't it, on a fixed frequency.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not a fixed frequency, it's kind of scattered, and if you looked at the waveform, it wouldn't be this nice curvy thing.
No,
it would
it's
just be
very,
like
it's
random
very all
kind of
over,
all over
yeah,
bits,
yeah.
which has kind of been researched, and they find that does have a very calming effect on people.
And there's different, well, they name them after colours, but it's hertz, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's hertz
the different,
that they are, the different frequencies. And
Yeah.
so brown noise for me is particularly, I think
Right.
it's the closest to waves.
Right,
It's very close to waves that
Yeah.
are actual the sea, because the sea is very, for me, is very calming, but that moves too much.
Interesting.
Whereas I like the
Yeah.
sort of fixedness of brown noise.
Right.
So that's what I use when I don't have a fan.
Okay.
Is I have brown noise.
Yeah.
And because I wake up repeatedly throughout the night, because have that wonderful thing of ADHD, which I get about an hour and I wake up an hour, but it does. I go straight back to sleep, and then some nights. I've just started leaving it on all night now, which is really naughty, but whatever. I actually sometimes only wake up once and I sleep through, which is very rare.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like a way that you can use vibrations or frequencies to as a tool to enable you to do the things that you need to do in life.
Yeah.
And we all know how important sleep is.
Well, that's it, and it's so interesting that you've found that specific thing as well. That and I think that's something that is really important for people to understand, is that if they then might be listening to this thinking, well, what's the magic vibration, what's the magic frequency that's going to help me with that? Well, there isn't one, I don't believe. I think it's very individual.
Every person is different. We're all vibrating differently.
Yeah, there is a school of thought that says that all our bodies are vibrating at different frequencies and different bits of our bodies, and maybe if you've heard of chakras or they're all different things. People have tried to do research into what the different vibrations are of these things in us physically and our energetic channels, but actually I don't believe there is a fixed vibration, and so therefore you have to explore all these different things. So like Steph's just saying, she discovered the fan and then actually has gone a bit deeper, and it's actually this brown noise that has a really good effect for you, but that's not to say that would work so well for me. So it's all a case of taking this and then exploring, I think. And
I think there is a lot of emotion and hormones, I think, that definitely work into all of that in our bodies, because obviously like I was referring to earlier, how we all have blood is being pumped around our bodies and supplying us with oxygen, and along with that we have all these different hormones in our bodies, and those are impacting the way that we physically move around and feel. So as women, we go through a whole cycle of hormones to do with our periods and menstruation, and each time and part of the month we're going to have different emotions and different feelings, and we're going to be vibrating differently.
And these emotions, of course, are just energy. Which again is vibration. So anything you talk about comes back to vibration, which is what I thought was a very interesting topic to kind of look at as we begin to talk about it.
And I mean, sometimes I can walk into a room and I feel like I am vibrating, like I am. Well, I like, especially if I'm sort of like dressed up and I'm just really in that like positive headspace and feeling really good. I feel like I'm vibrating and like euphoric, and I can walk in and other people just look at you and they all want to talk to you and be around you. And then other times when I'm really not feeling good, I'm definitely not dressed up. But along with that, I don't feel good, so I'm not maybe having eye contact and engaging with people. Sometimes if somebody even talks to you at the counter in a shop, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Like you can become invisible because I think your vibrations are just totally.
Well, and also
different.
what I thought you were going to say was you walk in a room and you can feel
You
the
can.
energy in the room.
You can. Oh yeah.
I mean, we all can do that. And again, all you are doing is really sensing vibration from people, from the room itself. You know, it's really an amazing thing, which we overlook, I think, so much. And we can, I'm not going to say we can control this, but we can definitely think about our environments and what we're exposing ourselves to in order to make ourselves into the state that we want to be in. We do have some amount of control over this.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about after one of your last sound baths, when we sat and talked to some of the people who attended, and the different how they all had their preferences of instrument.
Yes.
So one of them hated the rain stick. I remember they just didn't like it.
Yeah.
But then they absolutely, I think everyone loves the Native American style flute. They all love the that. But some of them really liked the Koshi chimes.
Yeah.
And some of them really liked, a lot of them liked the tongue drum. That's a big favourite, I think.
Yeah, that's got a kind of magical sound, hasn't it? So everybody had a preference, I think is the point you're making, and that's really interesting. But when you understand a little about vibration, it kind of makes sense. And it's why we all like different pieces of music as well. You know, we're not all drawn to the same thing. I often like to talk about the Mozart effect. Which was a famous study done many years ago that concluded that Mozart's music was really beneficial for our minds and for learning. It was, you know, there was something in it, there's so many patterns in it, and mathematically it works, and all these things. And of course that was a great study and has benefited many people. However, there has since been research done that states that they don't believe it's just Mozart's music. It can be any music, but what's important is that you like the music, that you're drawn to that music, and that it works for you. And that to me makes much more sense. Not to condone Mozart's music, because I'm a huge Mozart fan.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's more to do with how you connect to it.
Yeah.
You know, and then I don't know, I mean, this is where the magic happens. We don't understand this any more than that, really, other than what we're drawn to certain frequencies.
I know within the neurodiverse world, which I think probably does extrapolate to the sort of neuronorm, what do people call it? Neurotypical, that's it. I think I often get very obsessed with one song.
Okay.
And I will listen to that song. Like, it'll be on my Spotify, or, you know, when you get the Wrapped at the end of the year, and you'll have, you know, so many artists, and there's one song you'll have listened to over 1,000 times, which is quite, you get really obsessed, and it's because something about the structure of the song, the way that the frequencies that are used, and the impact that it has on you, it's not just that, I can't just think that it's just because you like the song.
No, maybe not. I think
there's something more to that than just actually it's really appealing to a part of your brain and helps regulate you in some way. That you can listen to that song 5 times in a row and it doesn't, every time it hits you. And it's not even anything particularly special or, you know, there's nothing about it that's, I mean, some artists, some songs there have been, but a lot of the songs have just been like, there's certain songs I just hear and I'm like, I love this. This just makes me.
Yeah, and even as a musician, I don't think you'd be able to say, well, it's because of this, this, and this.
No,
you know, you're somebody that can analyse music. It's not
unusual chord progression. There's nothing about the
melody.
It's just like it's all very average sometimes. But there's something about it, maybe the way it's been produced, or there's something that.
Or something that's touching you at that point, because I think it's also important to say what works one day might not work another day, because of course, like you've already touched upon a little bit, we are different people every minute of the day, really. And I think that you have to remember that when you're talking about all this. You know, one day you might find that the koshi chimes really work for you, and then another day, you know, you don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That is fine. And I think we should be more confident in our ability to say that and go with it. I think it's important that we don't kid ourselves in thinking, oh, well, I like this, so I should still like it.
Yeah.
You know, we need what we need at any given moment, and if we allow ourselves to go with it, then we get the benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really fascinating.
It's fascinating, but it all starts with vibration.
Topic.
So yeah. So we touched a little bit upon some of the sound bath instruments. I think next episode we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because that's really been what we've been looking at so far, isn't it? With Meridian is sound baths, and I've been lucky enough to run a few now, and it's been great. So I think it might be nice to talk more about the instruments and what sound bath is, and share with you some of our experiences and what we've heard back from participants as well.
Yeah.
So we will hopefully see you again and share all that with you next time. So.
Yeah, please follow us on social media. We are on Instagram at Meridian Music Sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, Meridian Music Sound. Facebook, Meridian Music Sound, and it's meridianmusic.co.uk for our website.
Yeah.
If you're in the local Hull, East Yorkshire area, you can come along to our sound baths. I think they're all scheduled for local areas at the moment, but hopefully expand over time. Yeah, cool.